74. A Rip Van Winkle. The story runs that a Mr. Chia, after obtaining, with the assistance of a mysterious friend, his master's degree, became alive to the vanity of mere earthly honors, and determined to devote himself to the practice of Taoism in the hope of obtaining the elixir of immortality. So early one morning, Chia and his friend, whose name was Lang, stole away together, without letting Chia's family know anything about it. And by, they found themselves among the hills, in a vast cave where there was another world and another sky. An old man was sitting there in great state, and Lang presented Chia to him as his future master. "Why have you come so soon?" asked the old man. To which Lang replied, "My friend's determination is firmly fixed. I pray you receive him amongst you." "Since you have come," said the old man, turning to Chia, "you must begin by putting away from you your earthly body." Chia murmured his assent, and was then escorted by Lang to sleeping chamber, where he was provided with food, after which Lang went away. The room was beautifully clean. The doors had no panels, and the windows no lattice, and all the furniture was one table and one couch. Chia took off his shoes and lay down, with the moon shining brightly into the room. And beginning soon to feel hungry, he tried one of the cakes on the table, which he found sweet and very satisfying. He thought Lang would be sure to come back, but there he remained hour after hour by himself, never hearing a sound. He noticed, however, that the room was fragrant with a delicious perfume. His viscera seemed to be removed from his body, by which his intellectual faculties were much increased, and every one of his veins and arteries could be easily counted. Then suddenly, he heard a sound like that of a cat scratching itself, and looking out of the window, he beheld a tiger sitting under the veranda. He was horribly frightened for the moment, but immediately recalling the admonition of the old man, he collected himself and sat quietly down again. The tiger seemed to know that there was a man inside, for it entered the room directly afterwards, and walking straight up to the couch, sniffed at Chia's feet. Whereupon there was a noise outside, as if a fowl were having its legs tied, and the tiger ran away. Shortly afterwards, a beautiful young girl came in, suffusing an exquisite fragrance around, and going up to the couch where Chia was, she bent over him and whispered, "Here I am." Her breath was like the sweet odor of perfumes. But as Chia did not move, she whispered again, "Are you sleeping?" The voice sounded to Chia remarkably like that of his wife. However, he reflected that these were all probably nothing more than tests of his determination, so he closed his eyes firmly for a while. But by and by, the young lady called him by his pet name. And then he opened his eyes wide to discover that she was no other than his own wife. On asking her how she had come there, she replied that Mr. Lang was afraid her husband would be lonely and had sent an old woman to guide her to him. Just then they heard the old man outside in a towering rage, and Chia's wife, not knowing where to conceal herself, jumped over a low wall nearby and disappeared. In came the old man, and gave Lang a severe beating before Chia's face, bidding him at once to get rid of his visitor. So Lang led Chia away over the low wall, saying, "I knew how anxious you were to consummate your immortality, and accordingly I tried to hurry things on a bit. But now I see that your time has not yet come, hence this beating I have had. Goodbye, we shall meet again someday." He then showed Chia the way to his home, and waving his hand bade him farewell. Chia looked down, for he was in the moon, and beheld the old familiar village, and recollecting that his wife was not a good walker and would not have got very far, hurried on to overtake her. Before long he was at his own door, but he noticed that the place was all tumbled down and in ruins, and not as it was when he went away. As for the people he saw, old and young alike, he did not recognize one of them. And recollecting the story of how Liu and Yuan came back from heaven, he was afraid to go in at the door. So he sat down and rested outside. And after a while, an old man leaning on a staff came out, whereupon Chia asked him which was the house of Mr. Chia. "This is it," replied the old man. "You probably wish to hear the extraordinary story connected with the family. I know all about it. They say that Mr. Chia ran away just after he had taken his master's degree, when his son was only 7 or 8 years old. And that about 7 years afterwards, the child's mother went into a deep sleep from which she did not awake. As long as her son was alive, he changed his mother's clothes for her according to the seasons. But when he died, her grandsons fell into poverty and had nothing but an old shanty to put the sleeping lady into. Last month she awaked, having been asleep for over 100 years. People from far and near have been coming in great numbers to hear the strange story. Of late, however, there have been rather fewer." Chia was amazed when he heard all this, and turning to the old man said, "I am Chia Fengji." This astonished the old man very much, and off he went to make the announcement to Chia's family. The eldest grandson was dead, and the second, a man of about 50, refused to believe that such a young-looking man was really his grandfather. But in a few moments out came Chia's wife, and she recognized her husband at once. They then fell upon each other's necks and mingled their tears together, after which the story is drawn out to a considerable length, but is quite devoid of interest.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more excellent content.